so to start this lesson off, I'm going to assume that you already know how to find the letters on the piano, aside from the sheet music, that that one is a C, that one's an F, that one's an A, that one's a D. You can kind of like play any note, and with a little bit of help, maybe a little bit of time, you can figure out what each letter is. And now we're going to take a look at the sheet music and try to figure out how to read that and apply it to the notes that you already know how to play. So basically there's two parts to sheet music. There's the treble clef, and then there's the bass clef. So on the piano, the treble clef is just basically a graph where we're going to put all the notes from the middle of the piano, from middle C on up, and then the bass clef is the one that we're going to use to graph all of the notes from middle C on down. So all those lower notes are going to be in the bass clef. We'll learn about those later. For right now, we want to focus on the treble clef. So each note can either be on a line or a space. Let me show you a couple of examples of this. So if we put a note on a space, for example, that would be this note right there. That is on a space because there's no line that's cutting through the middle of it, like if I were to put a note right there. There's a line cutting right through the middle of that one. So the first question when we see a note on the treble clef again, meaning that it's going to be probably some high note, and it's going to be probably in your right hand. Treble clef, by the way, just means high note. It doesn't mean right hand. But because you usually play the high notes with your right hand, it's on piano, it kind of means right hand, but not really. So the note can either be on the space or on the line. We can have a note up here on this space up here, or on this space, or it can be on this line or this line. And sometimes you'll have a measure or a little chunk of music that has notes scattered all throughout. And some of them are on lines and some of them are on spaces. Let's take a look at each one of these and see if they're on a line or a space. So this first one here, this one is on a space because the round part of the note has no line cutting through the middle of it. However, this one right here is on a line because it's got a line cutting right through the middle of it. This one right here is on a space because there's a line above it and below it, but not through the middle of it. And then this one right here is on a line because it's got a line cutting right through the middle of it. And of course, this one's on a line as well. So first question is this note on a line or a space? And then from there, we're going to try to figure out which letter it is. Now, if I just told you this one right here is an E, then hopefully you'd be able to say, okay, well, I guess that's probably an E, or maybe an E or an E. You probably wouldn't guess this E right here because that's a really low E, and you'd probably know that was in the bass clef. But it could be one of these E's here, and we want to figure out which E it is. So in order to do that, we need to maybe take a step backwards and try to find out what each of the lines in the spaces represent. So if we put a note right here on that bottom space, that's always going to be the F that is above middle C. So it's always going to be this F right here because this is middle C, the C that's in the middle-ish of the piano. And then this is the F that's just above that. So that F on that bottom space is always going to be that F right there above middle C. Now, if we go up one note from there, if we were to take that note and we were to go up one notch from the space to the line, that would be a G. If we go up one more notch, that would be an A. That's on a space. To go up one more notch, that would be a B. That's on a line. A C is on a space. A D is on a line. An E is on a space. An F is on a line. And then if we go up to the next space after that, that one right there is going to be a G. So that's how we get this chart right here that tells us where all of the letters are, and they just go straight through the alphabet or straight up the piano, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Now that only takes us to right there, so we'll learn later about how to graph the rest of the really high notes, but most of the notes that you're going to play on the piano with the right hand are going to be right in this range. Most of the notes you play on the piano with the left hand are going to be right in this range right here, so that's why we use the treble clef and the bass clef most commonly to graph these notes and to graph these notes for the treble clef and the bass clef. This can be a real pain in the rear though, because if you've got a note that's all the way up here, having to go all the way back to the beginning and go, well, okay, I guess I know that this one down here is an F, and then a G, and then an A, and then a B, and then a C, and you gotta count all the way up. It'd be really helpful if we could just have some of these memorized. So, there's lots of tools for memorizing the lines and spaces of the treble clef. I'm only going to give you one here that really matters, because if you just take the spaces of the treble clef and you were to write the letters in there, they would spell a word. The bottom space is an F, and the next space up is an A, the next space up is a C, and the next space up is an E, so it spells the word face. Okay, so if we can remember how to spell the word face, we can know automatically all of the spaces of the treble clef. Now, there's also ones for the lines of the treble clef, because if you have this line and this line, this is not going to spell a word. So this is where some people find this helpful, so I'm going to go ahead and show you, but I personally don't. E, G, B, D, F. Egg, bud, dif. I don't. So they try to make up like every good boy deserves fudge, or every good band does fine, or these other weird sayings that are, I think, hard to remember. But if that helps you, then you can know the lines of the treble clef. But what I would just do if I were you is I would just, here we go, take the spaces, and if you need to find a note that's on a line, then just go to the space and then go one notch over. So for example, if you needed to find this note right here, let's put this note in right there, and it's pretty high up. If I were you, I would just go, okay, well, I know this one is an F, and then I know that this one is an A, and I know that one's a C, and so if I go to a C and go one notch up, it's a D. That way, all I have to remember is face, F-A-C-E. And I can just jump to, okay, it's the third space and then one notch up. This is a temporary problem though, because when you read enough music, you're gonna get good enough at it that you won't have to do that. You'll just see that one and it'll just look like a D to you. Trust me, it seems kind of magical right now, but eventually you'll get there where you just see a note and it just looks like, oh, that's that thing right there. I'm supposed to play that one. But for right now, I know it can be a real pain, especially on the higher notes to have to count all the way up there. So if you see a note that's all the way up there, I would go F, A, C, E, because of the word face, and then one notch above an E. So I would go F, A, C, E, one notch above an E. It's that one. It happens to be an F, but it being an F isn't really important. As long as we see that note and we play that note, then we're reading sheet music. It doesn't matter if on our head we're thinking it's an F. We can think it's anything we want as long as we get that sound out. So remember that the spaces spell the word face. If you want to, you can make up some kind of acronym for the lines if that's helpful for you, or you can just use that and then just remember that each space and each line is one notch, and then you're reading the notes of sheet music. Congratulations.